You cheated on your wife? Well, don't tell her. A therapist said that? Really? Mended light, and that's a blight on my profession. Welcome to Therapists Say, where I get comments from you, gentle viewers, about poor advice you've received from therapists, right? Therapists do a lot of good in the world. I am a big believer in the profession, but there's bad eggs everywhere in every field, right? And sometimes therapists say stuff that make you go, So today I'm fielding a response where someone told me that a therapist told them, they said to the therapist, I cheated on my wife. How do I tell her? And the therapist said, Don't tell her, because it'll just make it worse. Just basically keep this secret inside you for the rest of your days, and then you can keep your marriage. And I'm wondering what that therapist has going on in their life that they thought this was good advice. Let's explore all the ways that could go wrong, and let's explore how actually to tell somebody that you cheated on them. This is going to be a good one. All right, the fact is, everything that is in darkness shall be uncovered and brought to light, right? Things get found out. And here's the funny thing. Sometimes you take the secret to your grave. I've worked with people who they discovered after their spouse died that their spouse had an affair. And congratulations, you made it to death. You didn't have to deal with that face-to-face conversation, but you carried that guilt within you for the rest of your life. You had to live a lie, which means you never got to experience a full level of trust and commitment and enjoyment of your partner, because you always felt like you weren't good enough for them. You always felt like the only reason they were staying is because they didn't know the truth, or at the very least you had a doubt, like, I don't know if they would still be here if they knew. How do I know? Because if you didn't have that doubt or fear, you would have told them. Like, the level of connection you could enjoy in that relationship, or if that relationship dissolved, in the next relationship, if you learn from your mistakes and you're accountable and have integrity moving forward, the level of love and joy and closeness and intimacy that you could have had, you sacrificed out of fear of being found out. So maybe you didn't have to have that conversation, but you lived a pretty miserable life. And then you didn't spare your spouse the pain anyways, because after you died, they found out. And they were even more devastated knowing that this was a decades-long secret than they would have been if they found out when it happened. And I can't tell you just how profound the level of grief and betrayal is, not just for the act, because a lot of times it's like this happened 40 years ago, right? The act that long ago doesn't matter as much as that your entire marriage was lies, right? Your entire relationship was lies. So, if you were trying to spare them pain, you failed. So there's that. There's no good reason not. Well, there's understandable fears for why not to tell. But at the end of the day, there's no good reason not to. Especially because this person was coming to the therapist saying, I cheated on my wife, how do I tell her? In other words, I'm already resolved to tell her. It's the right thing to do. I can't live in secret, and she needs to make an informed decision, because if she's going to stay with me, then it's because she's going to choose that, and we're going to work things out. And if she leaves, she has every right to do that. And he goes to the therapist and says this, and the therapist says, nah, don't do that. Let me say this as clearly as I can. It is not a therapist's job to tell you what to do. If you go to therapy like you're going to a guru on top of the mountain for them just to tell you what to do, you are sacrificing your agency, your free will, saying, you just tell me what to do. I don't want it. And that may sound like a great idea. I've made a mess in my life, so I'm going to go to somebody else and let them take the reins because I don't deserve them. But the fact is, if you made the mess, you have to clean it up. So what does a therapist do? A therapist gives you tools. A therapist gives you insight and helps you to explore those options to their logical conclusion. And a therapist gives you support and helps you find your courage to do the right thing. Someone comes to me, says, I cheated on my wife. How do I tell her? I ask them, how are you thinking of telling her? What are the ways that you've played it out in your mind? And what does each one look like? And I get a little bit of information about what their perception of their partner is, as well as what their fears are about the outcome. If they say, how do I tell her? They've already made up their mind that they need to. If they haven't made up their mind, then I tell them what I just told you all a couple minutes ago about how that's going to go if you don't tell them, and what that end result is going to be. I understand the secrecy. There's a lot of shame in betraying your values, in wanting to be seen as a good person, in believing yourself to be a good person. The fact is, I've counseled with hundreds of people who have had affairs. I've counseled with hundreds of people who have cheated. Only one was somebody who, before they got married, they said looking back, they said, yeah, I knew I probably shouldn't have gotten married, and I was probably going to cheat because I know me. Like, only one person saw themselves as a potential cheater. Almost everyone I've ever met who had an affair thought that they would never have an affair. That's not something that they would ever do, and that's not a line that they would ever cross. And so people come with a great amount of shame and guilt and self-loathing for betraying the person they love, and for betraying their own values, and for not holding true to who they want to be. And it's scary to own that. They can do it with a therapist because a therapist is a stranger. They can do it with a therapist because a therapist is bound by confidentiality. But to look their partner in the face and say, I promised you that I would be faithful to you, and I wasn't. To admit that failing is terrifying. And they say, well, I would tell them, but I don't want to hurt them. So I'm not going to tell them to spare them pain. Well, we've already explored. They will find out, even if you take it to your grave. And 99 times out of 100, it doesn't make it to the grave. The truth comes out way before then. And usually at a time that you didn't choose, by somebody that wasn't you letting it loose or telling, or your spouse discovering evidence, right, that you weren't as careful as you thought you were. And then you didn't get in front of it. Most people I talk to, the secrecy and the lying and the deception and the pretending are as bad to them as the actual cheating was. So how do you tell? How do you tell your partner? You recognize that the only way that you'll be free from the guilt of this and free from the shame of it is to own it. When we don't take accountability, when we're afraid of people finding out, it just stays inside of us, and it just eats us up and turns us into people who loathe ourselves and hate ourselves and are disgusted by ourselves. The only way to reclaim yourself is to step forward. The only way to reclaim yourself with confidence and strength and to start to like yourself again is to own what you did. Not minimize, not justify, not shift blame, but to just own it. Just own it. And recognize that you reap what you sow. If you don't know what the law of the harvest is or what reaping and sowing is, sowing is planting seeds. And reaping is collecting the harvest, collecting the fruit or the vegetables. So the phrase you reap what you sow means you receive the consequences of the choices you made. And that may mean that you lose this relationship, which is really sad. And it's a really hard pill to swallow. But if it happens, even though you'll always have that regret with you, you can start to let go of the guilt. Because taking responsibility, respecting the other person enough to tell them the truth, and having the courage to do the hard thing that you were terrified to do, which is tell them, helps you start to find your confidence again. And then you can move forward with a different future, a future where you will never do that again, because you know how devastating it is and how painful it is. How do you tell them? What words do you use? That's up to you, but I would advise you not to sugarcoat it, not to delay it or draw it out, or try and justify it by telling the step by step how it happened and why you're not such a bad person and blah, blah, blah. Like, your partner's going to be wrecked. But you need to tell them. So own what you did. Own the choices that you made. Don't blame the other person for the behavior. Even if you felt lonely or neglected or struggling in this relationship or whatever was going on, you made a choice to cross a line. You could have handled the other stuff that was going on in the relationship in a different way. You made a choice to cross the line. So take responsibility for that. No justifications, no minimizing, no excuses. Be direct. Say what you did. Say that you're sorry. And say what's in your heart. So, don't tell your wife you had an affair. Yep, that's crap therapists say. Do what makes you feel good. It's another wonderful piece of therapeutic advice somebody sent in. We've got a video on that one that you can watch right here. If you are trying to heal from betrayal trauma, we have an entire Healing from Infidelity online course that you can take in conjunction with counseling. Go to mendedlight.com and schedule a complimentary 15-minute discovery call with one of our specialists on our team. Have you ever been betrayed? Or if you want to get really vulnerable, have you been the betrayer? How did you work through it? What did you do to heal from that? Are you still healing? What advice do you have? Let us know in the comments below. We love to learn from you and for our community to learn from one another. Until next time, folks, keep shining because we need your light.